And there we go.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Bored as Hell podcast. I'm Adam McDonald with Big Shiny Robot.
And I am Andy Wilson, a.k.a. Citizen Bot, also a Big Shiny Robot.
And we are joined by a very special guest, Brooks Bird.
With therealplace.com.
Realplace.com. Anywhere else we can see you?
Well, I also do video and Blu-ray and DVD reviews for blogcritics.org.
Nice. So Brooks Bird is one of the members of the Utah Film Critic Association. He's also my partner in crime up here, going to see bad movies so you don't have to. We got a lot to talk about, but stick through to the end. It is October, and we want to start going over some really cool, maybe overlooked Halloween movies that are a lot of fun, maybe scary, maybe not, maybe family-friendly. Not this week. But we definitely have a lot to talk about, so we think you'll enjoy kind of the things we're going to bring to the table. Really fast, though, before we get to the rest of the reviews, we did miss last week because of Comic-Con, everything that was going crazy, so we do apologize for that. I do want to touch on the movie Stonewall really quickly, though. And I mean quickly, like less than 2 minutes, because there's not much to talk about here. Stonewall is Roland Emmerich's take on the infamous Stonewall riots that took place decades ago that kind of kicked off the LGBT rights fight for equality. It caught a lot of flack because the trailers and the marketing all showed the Stonewall riots and kind of wiped out the fact that there were trans people, people of color, and drag queens and lesbians were kind of the driving force behind what happened. And they made it seem like it was this corn-fed, hunky white kid from Indiana who threw the first brick, started the riots, and rah, 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 sis, boom, rah. And it got a lot of heat for that. So here's the thing. If you're going to name your movie Stonewall, actually make it about the Stonewall riots. The Stonewall Inn and the actual riots take up maybe 20 to 25 minutes of the actual movie. This movie has about as much to do with the Stonewall riots as it does about Stonewall Jackson. It's more of a coming-of-age story about this kid who gets found out for being gay, moves to New York, makes friends, finds himself, and goes on with his life. It's not a badly made movie, and in fact, Roland Emmerich showed some restraint in his filming, but it's not about Stonewall. So it's not that bad movie, not a good movie, horrible marketing, has nothing to do with the topic at hand. It's not deserving of the 8 or 9% it's getting on Rotten Tomatoes, but it's not something you need to go see. So I'm a 5 out of 10 on that. Not horrible, doesn't deserve the hate it's getting, should have been marketed and named something else. So with that being said, let's move on to our actual movies this week.
Which are all much better.
Which are all much better. Well,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So Andy and Brooks, you both got to see Sicario, and I had to work. So Andy, why don't you tell us about what that's about, and then we'll go from there.
Sicario, as the movie tells you in its opening crawl, comes from an ancient Hebrew word meaning assassin. In Mexico, Sicario has come to mean hitman and is associated with the drug war. So that tells you exactly what is going on in this movie. A lot of people are calling this the apocalypse now of drug movies, and I think that's a fairly apt description in how bleak and hopeless it feels. I'd also make a comparison to just as Apocalypse Now, Full Metal Jacket, Platoon really delved into the hopelessness and inhumanity of the Vietnam War, so too does Sicario do for the drug war. This is a story of Emily Blunt, who plays FBI rookie agent Kate Macer, who on a relatively routine assignment, they bust into what they think is a drug house, and they find instead a house of horrors. Hidden in the walls are up to possibly 100 dead bodies that have been stashed there by the Sonoran drug cartel. They're trying to nail the owner of the home, Manny Diaz, who is a lieutenant in the cartel, who has a bunch of other legitimate businesses. So to try and cause chaos and disrupt everything, an interagency task force is brought in, led by Josh Brolin. Along with him, he brings Benicio del Toro, both of whom are a little bit mysterious, and they won't say exactly who they're working for other than they are quote-unquote DOD contractors, DOD, Department of Defense. They say they're working for the military. They're working with a bunch of Delta Force soldiers. So they're about to go in and cause as much chaos for the cartel as they can, and they need Kate there for various reasons, which aren't explained until the end of the movie. So you go down this rabbit hole with them and their operations, and things essentially go from bad to worse, from tense to more intense, to horribly violent, to, oh my gosh, I can't believe how awful this is, let me out of the theater violent. You're along for the ride, literally, because director Denis Villeneuve, who previously did Prisoners, puts you in the action, oftentimes in first person, and that's where this movie really hits you. You're along for the ride, standing on the back of a Mexican police truck riding escort as they go through the streets of Juarez. You are in a first person view as they go down a drug tunnel to try and take out some bad guys. And it is just intricately woven, very well paced, and had me on the edge of my seat the whole time until the end, at which time I just felt awful. I was like, humanity is terrible. We have completely screwed ourselves on the drug war, and this is an impossible situation, and it's terrible. But in terms of a movie, wow, amazing. I had a great time with it, and along with the direction and the story, I thought the real star here was Benicio, who does an amazing job. If it's not too early to start talking Oscar, I'd say he's got a good shot at a Best Supporting Actor.
Oh, it's not too early. We're going to talk Oscar a lot more later on in this conversation. So
okay, great. What do you think, Brooks?
I think the only thing that held the movie that the pacing for me was way too slow. I know that these movies are supposed to be a slow burn and it's supposed to build up to its big climax, but for me, it just kind of felt like it lacked the punch because it took so long to get there. But it was Benicio del Toro leading the way that just plows through that, and just watching him on screen, it's one of the best. It is the best performance, supporting at least so far.
Yeah. I had a great time. I like to do this sometimes where I imagine an alternate history for the movie. And so I thought of this as Benicio del Toro as the collector going to find the Infinity Stone for cocaine. This movie is obviously not, but that was a good way to like get myself to not think about the horrible things that were happening and that we were witnessing on screen. So
horrible things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we were talking about it last night, and I haven't seen it yet, so I'm not going to go into spoilers for everyone. But let's just say it. I was surprised by what I heard they actually did in the movie, because they did some things that you don't ever see in films.
No,
not like not in the grotesque, like, rapey sort of way or anything, but just like the way they shot certain scenes or pulled off certain we'll say murders.
Yeah, and I was really surprised at how almost casual a lot of the violence was, and that was Emily Blunt's character's response to all of this. Over and over, she's saying, "What the F are we doing?" And it's like these guys this is business as usual for them, and it's business as usual for the cartel to like kill people, maim them, behead them, and hang them naked off of a bridge for everyone to see as a warning. And it's like, this is terrible, and this is what people in places like Juarez deal with all the time. And it's just, they're coming back across the border, and they've just gone through this really violent episode. And one of the members of the team says, "Oh, you're going to be reading about this in every paper in America tomorrow." And Josh Brolin's like, "Nope, this won't even make the papers in El Paso. It's so commonplace and it's so normal for there to just be awful violence. Like, these people are almost immune to it, and that's what's so scary.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the whole commonplace of violence. I had a friend who moved from Utah to Iraq, and he actually was working there as a bartender. And when he came back, I was like, "Holy crap! That must have been crazy, fearing for your life with the terrorism and the bombs and just everything going on there." He's like, "Actually, I was for the first week, and then you just become so used to it that you hear a bomb go off in the background, and you pause because you don't want to spill your drink, and then you go back to doing what you're doing." So, it's sad. And like you mentioned at the beginning of your review, that losing hope for humanity, because this kind of stuff is that common in so many places, to where someone getting their head chopped off and dumped over a bridge naked doesn't mean anything, because we saw 2 yesterday. And I think you were going to talk about this. You mentioned the shooting we just had in Oregon. It's the same way almost here. It's like, there's been another shooting, and the outrage we felt during like Sandy Hook and the other ones that have happened recently, it's almost like the veneer has worn off. And I don't mean to sound casual about that, because obviously these are tragedies and these are horrible things, but you're not seeing the same reaction you were seeing a year ago, just because eventually everything does wear you down and just become like, this happened again. And it's a horrible, horrible thing. And it's a striking commentary on mankind and how we as humans react to things. But sadly, it's true.
Yeah. So, Brooks, I don't think you like this as much as I did. I'm in like a 7.5 out of 10 territory. Where would you go?
Well, as far as the performances go, I'd probably, if you're going 7.5, I'd have to go lower. Because I was going to say 8 for the performances alone.
Mm.
Well, but you can be an 8, you can be a 7.5.
Yeah,
That's,
sure.
Everyone's fine.
Because Del Toro is just he's the scariest person in a movie this year.
He always does an amazing job in everything he's in. So I'm incredibly excited to see this. I was really sad I had to work through it. I know you text me, come see it. I'm like, I'm at work. I know it's getting huge buzz. The opening weekend, when it was very limited release, it outgrossed movies that were opening on 3,000 screens as far as a per box office goes. So definitely one to check out.
Yeah.
So we went from the dregs of humanity to the high rise of humanity. A little bit lighter note. Brooks, why don't you tell us about The Walk?
Well, The Walk is pretty easy. It's based on Philippe Petit's book, which was also made into a documentary called Man on Wire, and is about his 1974 walk across the Twin Towers on a tightrope. Very easy. It flashes back to 1973 and kind of shows us the build-up, how he gathers his team. There's some New Yorkers that feel a little out of place, but that's okay. And it's all about the casting. But this is definitely Robert Zemeckis' step back to quality filmmaking after the drudgery he's dragged us through for his Uncanny Valley entries. So it's about time to see him making something that's a technical marvel, even if it's still not his best work, but it's way better than Flight.
Yeah, and I didn't see Flight. I just had no interest. I heard enough about it. I'd never seen Man on Wire, so I need to go back and watch that, because I've heard it's a little more detailed, and this movie, some say, almost rips off what happened in that.
Well, they're based on true story. Kind of have to. There's really no way around it.
Yeah, it's like I saw this great World War II movie, but it really felt like it ripped off the history of World War II. Saving Private Ryan, it just totally ripped off this documentary I saw on D-Day. How dare they?
Exactly.
I guess they were. It felt totally the same. I don't know. I haven't seen it, so those out there who can compare them, maybe you'll see something I didn't. What's really interesting is The Walk plays out like a heist film.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you've seen Ocean's 11, it's kind of the same way. Joseph Gordon-Levitt playing Philippe Petit, who is fantastic. I mean, he owns this movie. People were kind of giving him crap for his accent and the way he was acting.
That's how the real guy talks.
Yeah, I went on YouTube and watched it. I was like, oh crap! It actually Philippe Petit taught Joseph Gordon-Levitt how to walk a tightrope. So he did a lot of his own stunts in the movie because he knew what he was doing. So we got to hang out with him and obviously pick up his tics and idiosyncrasies. But yeah, it's a heist movie. They get together and they put the team together, which includes, his kind of maybe love interest, some friends from France. They go to New York, gather people there, gather supplies, put the plan in place, and I wasn't expecting that. So that was kind of cool. That being said, something just didn't work for me. Like we mentioned before when we reviewed Everest, it's almost like, and by the way, go see this in IMAX 3D.
Absolutely.
If you're going to see it in any way, shape, or form, the last 20, 30 minutes when he's actually out on the high wire, the people are throwing up in movie theaters.
For good reason.
Yeah,
it's terrifying.
It's terrifying. It's amazingly shot up there. But hold on, get ahead of ourselves. With Everest, you've got this build up, and we're all waiting for the payoff, which is him on the wire. And it just kind of it drags along a bit. They do this really annoying thing where Joseph Gordon-Levitt is standing on the Statue of Liberty in the background of the Twin Towers, and he's narrating the whole thing. And it's kind of cool at first because it makes it feel more like a documentary. But then as time goes on, it's almost like the writers didn't trust the audience to feel the right things when they were supposed to feel them. So it's like they put a bib on us and we're spoon-feeding us emotion. Like, here, you're going to feel happy here. You're going to feel worried here. Oh, no, here comes the plane. And that really got wearing.
I think what they should have done with that angle is brought in the real Philippe Petit to narrate the movie himself.
Yeah, they could have done that.
It may give it away that nothing bad happens, but still.
But that happened when
everyone knows nothing bad's going to happen anyway because it's based on a true story.
It's based on a true story. But honestly, all of that gets washed away the moment he steps on that wire, and you feel like you're soaring
out on that ledge.
Yeah, and you look down and your stomach drops, and I mean, it honestly, what we were talking about last night is if you buy a ticket, show up an hour late. And just walk in for that last scene, have a good time and walk out. It's definitely a lot of build-up with a great payoff. There are some problems with it, but that payoff, amazing payoff. So I'm only at a 6.5 just because I don't think it's worth the wait. But yeah, if they could build an IMAX screen in my living room, just so I could watch that scene over and over again, I would never leave my house.
See, and I didn't have as much problem with the narration or any of the characters aside from some of the New Yorkers.
Yeah,
the hippie drug guy was a little obnoxious.
Yeah, when did they cast Matthew Lillard as Shaggy do?
Yeah, it's literally like Shaggy walks into the movie. It's really,
whoa, man, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm freaking out. It's like, okay,
oh, it's horrible.
But anyway, so I'm gonna go with 8.
8,
because I didn't mind the narration, and I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and
yeah, he was fantastic.
And the payoff, totally worth it.
Yeah, we're not talking Oscar-worthy.
No.
Fantastic, but I forgot it was Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Oh, and I forgot Ben Kingsley is his mentor, who was Papa Rudy, who ran a circus that he used to go to as a kid and did really cool high-wire acts, and he kind of bribes him into teaching him how to walk the rope and tie things up and set the wire, and he owns the screen every time he's on it, too. So great performances from the two of them. Just a little bit hackneyed and kind of drags a bit, in my opinion. So,
and that was the kid from Third Rock from the Sun,
right? Who would have ever thought he would grow up to be one of the best actors of our age?
Yeah,
I know.
He also used to be a little androgynous, and now he's Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Now
he's JGL.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, so those are movies. Again, we've had a bit of a mixed review on those. I think we're all in pretty much the same agreement for the next one. The Martian, starring Matt Damon, which is based on the book. Is it Andy
Weir?
Andy Weir, yeah.
Matt Damon. Who loves to get left behind.
Yeah, oh yeah. Actually, there was a meme I was sharing about, between Saving Private Ryan, Interstellar, and The Martian, Americans have spent way too much damn money getting Matt Damon back. But yeah, so he's an astronaut, he's a botanist, and he's on Mars with his team, and they're doing samples and doing tests, and a huge dust storm comes up, and they have to leave because their return ship's going to blow over. Well, on the way over there, Matt Damon gets hit by some debris, and it impales his little biometer, and so everyone thinks he's dead. So the crew is heartbroken, but so they have to leave, otherwise they're all going to die too. So they take off. The storm's over, and the next day, who should wake up but Matt Damon? His character's named Mark Watney. He wasn't dead. Actually, the piece of debris pierced his suit, but his blood clotted and kind of kept it from leaking out air. So he stumbles back to their habitat and realizes that he's alone on Mars. He has no way to contact Earth. He's got a very small amount of food, and he's got to figure out a way to survive for at least 4 more years until the next mission comes to Mars. So a lot of the movie, it's people are saying it's almost like Apollo 13 meets Castaway, and that's true to a point. It doesn't quite sum up what the movie's all about, but yeah, he's sitting there and he's doing a lot of like diaries, video diaries of himself. And he's saying, "Hey, so I'm on Mars and I got to figure out a way to make food. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and try to find a way to grow potatoes on Mars." And he does it. And he finds a way to condense water, and he has to make this. He has to go 1,000 or so kilometers to the next landing site. And so it's all about him just using his smarts and ingenuity to keep himself alive and keep his hopes up. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Jeff Daniels is playing the head of NASA, and he's going to damage control and trying to figure out what to do. They've pretty much stopped all missions now because the first person to Mars died. And then finally they get in touch with Mark. And they're like, holy crap, we need to find a way to get him back. So it kind of becomes a race against time where his original crew revolts and wants to go back to pick him up. They're trying to find a way to get more supplies to them to get him before his food runs out. And it's just an incredibly crazy, wonderful, funny, one of the best films I've seen all year. I don't think I'm being hyperbolic by saying that. What do you think, Andy?
Oh yeah, absolutely not. No, this is one of the best movies I've seen, and I was amazed at how well they blended the tension with the humor. And Matt Damon is like effortlessly funny, which I think if you have to be stuck in this situation, you have to employ a lot of that kind of gallows humor. In fact, I spent most of the movie thinking back to my days as a Boy Scout, and we got the Wilderness Survival Merit Badge. And in that, you have to learn the 7 priorities for being able to survive in the wilderness for an extended period of time. Mm-hmm. The number 1 is a positive attitude, and
so he embodies that.
He really does, and it was so funny because then he goes down that exact hierarchy. It's like, okay, first I've got to have a positive attitude. Okay, I do. Second, I need medical care in case I'm hurt. Good, got it. Third, well, in his case, he needed to make sure he had both shelter and enough oxygen. So he made sure he got that. Then he had to try and find a way to do communication. And then way down on the list is actually food and water. But he made the right priority decisions, and he worked out all of these things by and pardon my French here, but it's in the trailers and everything. Yeah. But he scienced the shit out of everything. And that's what he did and it was so great. And as much as Sicario made me feel bad about humanity, this made me feel so good. It's like we can take problems and we can solve them. We can use our own ingenuity. And this being in the not too distant future rather than like a far Star Trek future or a distant past Star Wars era where it's like there's all this great technology. No, this is pretty much 90% stuff we all have today. And it was just great. I felt so good, and it made me wish that we were a society that emphasized science and exploration more, and guns and military less. And that just that was the only thing that made me sad, but it made me very hopeful because I think everyone who's seeing this is feeling the same way.
Brooks?
Well, at least I'm happy to say I can set up base camp along with the rest of you. Yeah, definitely one of the best movies of the year. Ridley Scott's obviously upping his ante with this one. And I know that a lot of people, well, some people have complained that I don't know, they have complaints about the movie. And I have to say one of the reasons why I'm going to say that the movie's better than the book.
Oh, wow.
And there's one very particular reason, because I hadn't finished the book before I saw the movie. And then I was reading a part of the book where in the movie, there's this big set piece and it's showing, their space station flying through space, and it's just it's a simple scene. She's working out, Kate Mara, and one of the other astronauts walks in and asks her to decrypt a file, and it's just an amazing set piece. And in the book, all that happens is he walks into her room and she's sitting at her desk. So I think it just goes to show how much more effort Ridley Scott, Drew Goddard, who wrote it,
and Drew Goddard
adapted it.
Absolutely,
Cabin in the Woods,
Cabin in the Woods,
Cloverfield,
amazing,
Daredevil.
Yeah.
And he's just a great screenwriter, and so I'm pretty sure that he probably wrote some of this in.
Yeah,
because I mean, why would you want someone just sitting at their desk?
When you could have it was like almost in Interstellar, where they have this spaceship spinning, so that's how they kind of manipulate and form gravity. And it's spinning through space and it's moving around, and she kind of turns upside down, and it was cool,
jaw-dropping shot.
Yeah, and Neil deGrasse Tyson, who he's been raving about this on Twitter. He's like, it's a movie that actually has fun with science, and when it needs to, it fudges the science, but who cares because it's based on real things. And it's just, a friend of ours was saying that he didn't like, one of the things he didn't like about the movie was there's going to be a lack of sacrifice and drama sometimes, and it was kind of a lighter type movie for Ridley Scott. And see, I looked back, and I think all as kids, we all wanted to be astronauts. I think it's kind of that and being a dinosaur were like the two things I wanted to be.
Space and dinosaurs.
When I grew up. And this movie kind of brought that spark of hope and enlightenment and just joy back that, hey, this is going to be us in 20 years, hopefully. And the idea that, we're on this small speck of blue in this infinite universe, but that, like you mentioned, Andy, that, maybe we all can work together one day and accomplish great things and take the Star Trek route instead of the Mad Max route. So it was amazingly shot. It was beautiful. It was funny as hell. Well acted. We talked about the Oscars. If Matt Damon doesn't get nominated for this, shame on you, Academy.
Yeah, the movie all rides on him. I mean, he's all by himself.
Yeah. The supporting cast is great. We mentioned Kate Mara. Trust me, she's a lot better than what you saw in Fantastic Four. Jessica Pena, who we saw in Ant-Man, who stole the show there. Jessica Chastain, Jeff Daniels, Sean Bean doesn't die.
And there's also the best Easter egg.
Which one?
The Lord of the Rings reference.
Oh, yeah, one does not wander into Mars.
Anyway. Yeah, no, that was great. And that's what I was so amazed at, is how much talent there was in the supporting cast. Chiwetel Ejiofor and Sebastian Stan both bring a lot here too. I mean, a lot of these could have been really small throwaway parts. Even Danny Glover shows up in what was a small role and has a lot of fun with it. And I thought that they all did a great job with this. And it once again proves that adage that there are no small parts, only small actors.
Yeah. So I'm at a perfect 10. I've only done this once this year with Mad Max. I absolutely loved it. I'm calling Best Actor for Matt Damon, Best Movie and Best Director, and possibly Cinematography. Again, if the Oscars don't do something with this movie, I'm going to stop watching.
Well, it's the highest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes out of everything we've talked about. So I think that says something.
Well deserved. Yeah, I'm at a 9 out of 10. I didn't think it was as perfect as Mad Max or Ex Machina, which I both like just a little bit more because I thought they were, I don't know, they were more complicated stories to tell in some way. But this is a movie I want to take my kids to, and I'm not letting my kids anywhere near either of those other two movies for a long time.
I couldn't imagine why. Brooks, what do you think?
I'm sticking with Adam on this. I'm going perfect 10. I can't find one thing wrong with it.
Yeah. I went back over the last couple of days because I was actually, when I originally saw The Walk, I walked out, no pun intended, on a high note, and it was just so mind-blowing because that last scene just stuck with me. And as the days went by, my score steadily dropped as I kind of digested what I'd seen. With The Martian, we saw this 2 weeks ago now almost, and every single day I think back about it, like, I can't wait. I want to go see it again, and I can't think of anything I would do differently or I would wish that Ridley Scott would have done differently to make it better. So, but again, 9s and 10s, fantastic movie, definitely the go-to movie of the week. Apparently, it's better in 3D. We only saw it in 2D.
Yeah, they claimed there was some technical difficulties, but
Yeah,
who
whatever.
knows?
But
Yeah, I saw it in 3D. I thought it was great. I didn't see like, oh, we have to. This is something you absolutely have to see in 3D. But that scenery on Mars is really gorgeous and is probably worth it right there.
yeah, so check that one out. It's the must-see movie of the week. I would say it's the first must-see movie of the season and kind of kicked off our Oscar bait.
Yeah.
So overall, some really good movies this week. But before we leave you, we want to talk about some cool Halloween movies. It's first week of October. Everyone should be sitting down with their pumpkin spice lattes and put on some good horror movies.
Nothing wrong with being basic.
Yeah, Brooks and I are going to suffer through some really bad movies soon.
Actually, they don't look so bad.
Well,
one of them will.
One of them is supposed to be the most horrible horror movie ever made. And I'll talk about that briefly next episode. But we did want to talk about some cool Halloween movies, and we asked everyone on our Facebook page to give us some suggestions. And they came up with supernatural/demonic movies. Brooks, why don't you tell us about the one you picked?
My pick is The Orphanage. It's a Spanish horror mystery thriller, and I have to say, it's the first time a horror movie's ever made me want to cry.
Really?
But what it's about is a woman is working at the orphanage that she used to live at. Well, I guess live at when she was a child, and so she comes back to maybe run it, and is there with her husband and her child, her son, Simone, and there are ghosts, creepy seaside caves, and a really creepy social worker that seems to be stalking them, and there's a kid running around the hallways with a bag over his head.
Oh, fun.
So everything you can expect from those spooky haunted house thrillers, but it's amazingly shot, spectacularly acted. Everything that goes bump in the night does, and it's, like I said, surprisingly touching. It's the first horror movie that may make you want to cry. Anyone with kids, obviously, for sure.
Interesting. Like, yeah, I've wanted to see that one for a while. I got thousands of movies on my list that I need to see, but
it's on my table.
It's on the table over there. I can see it. So, but cool. That's good to hear.
Absolutely.
And I know
produced by Del Toro.
Guillermo
del Toro.
The only Del Toro.
Since we were talking about Benicio before.
Andy, what'd you come up with?
I'm also on the Guillermo del Toro track. I chose Hellboy.
Hellboy, yes.
All right.
So, I mean, when I think supernatural, I didn't go scary. I wanted to go kind of fun, adventure-y, and this is what I came up with. Hellboy, adapted from the Mike Mignola comics, about a little tiny baby demon found during World War II who is supposed to cause the apocalypse, but instead he's found by a British scientist played by John Hurt as his older version, and instead they train him to be a part of a supernatural crime-fighting force.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that go bump in the night, and they are the ones that bump back. He's aided here by Selma Blair, who has blue fire powers, and Abe Sapien, who is a mocap performance by Doug Jones, who is an ancient fish person with psychic powers. And the three of them, along with a rookie human agent who is somewhat forgettable, John Myers, go out and are trying to solve a problem about the return of Rasputin and some other ancient Nazis that are going to try and cause an apocalypse. Lots of fun, just a great adventure story, like a lot of comic book movies. And unlike a lot of comic book movies, this doesn't get bogged down in the whole origin story thing that's dispatched in the first 15 minutes very easily.
Or anything like that.
Yeah, and so we get to just spend a lot of time with Ron Perlman and in this giant red ape demon suit with his giant rocky fist going out and causing all sorts of havoc. I just love this movie. It's pure unabashed joy, along with being scary at times and along with being really funny at times. So I love it.
Yeah, and shout out to Ron Perlman. I think this was a year or two ago, but he did a Make a Wish for a kid who loved the Hellboy movies and wanted to meet Hellboy. So he went and got in full Hellboy makeup, went and visited him in the hospital, did the kid up in the makeup. Really, just a cool story to see that. It's always nice to see that actors and famous people who powerful, rich, this and that, still haven't lost their humanity. Because too often you hear about people who get stuck up or snooty. And much like Chris Evans did at Comic-Con this year up here, where he spent an hour and a half with kids in the back playing with them and making them happy they could meet Captain America. It's cool that Ron Perlman kind of has the same heart for his fans and for kids. But yeah, Hellboy, we were talking about it last night when we were discussing the movies to bring up here. And as a fan and someone who loves it, it's almost like it took me back for a second because I just realized that, yeah, Hellboy is really underappreciated. Like, a lot of people weren't familiar with the comic. Maybe they saw part of it and like, it's not for me. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a little bit scary. It's funny. And just reminds me that I need to go watch it again because I haven't seen it in about a year or two.
And hopefully we'll get that final cap to the trilogy.
Yeah.
That would be great.
But I'm pushing for Pacific Rim 2 first. So
that's true. We have had 2 Hellboys. We need another Pacific Rim.
That's the problem with Del Toro. He's got 8 billion projects, and we'll see.
Yeah. So everyone needs to go see Crimson Peak when it comes out in 2 weeks, because if that movie does well, we'll get our Pacific Rim 2. So, and probably Hellboy 3. So go out there and do that.
Yes.
So I picked Evil Dead, and not Evil Dead, the classic Sam Raimi, but the remake from 2013, directed by Fede Alvarez. And I think a lot of people overlooked it, or thought, oh, well, the original is so great, how could someone top it?
It's not.
It wasn't trying to top it. It's a different story. It's a bunch of college kids go to the cabin in the woods, but they're going there because their best friend Mia is a drug addict, and they're going there so she can go through detox and get it out of her system and go crazy there, where she has no way to go out and get drugs. And of course, in the middle of it all, they find the Necronomicon, they read from it, summon up these demons. And what's really cool they do is that she's been attacked by them. She's freaking out. She's going crazy, and everyone just assumes, oh, it's the detox, and you're just going crazy because you don't have the drugs in you. When actually she is telling the truth. The crazy thing about Evil Dead is it is one of the most grotesque, bloody, nasty, horrible movies ever made, and almost all the effects are practical effects. They didn't use CGI. There's a horrible scene involving a box cutter and someone's tongue. A syringe in someone's eye, and it's all just wincing, and I'm about just thinking about it.
Electric knife to the arm.
Yeah, and it's pretty much squishes together Evil Dead 1 and 2 into one movie. Sans the laughing and the humor, because that's really not where in this film.
But it is pretty gleeful with the gore.
It's gleeful with the gore, and it's all done so well with so little CGI. It's not trying to top the original. It's trying to complement it, and for fans, there's a lot of cool Easter eggs. If you see through the credits, you got a Bruce Campbell cameo. You got the car, Sam Raimi's car that's been in all of his movies. A lot of cool nods and winks. If you didn't see it, go for it, but I promise you, don't watch it after you eat anything. Have an empty stomach, because you might lose your lunch.
Yeah. The only thing I want to argue with you on that is that the original Evil Dead is not a classic. Like, I think you can go back and look at that and be like, there are real big problems with this movie. It's great in a lot of ways, but Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 were the movies that we would watch and we would laugh at because we could see the strings, and we could, laughing at the effects and how terrible a lot of them were. So what I loved most about this was how they brought it, they did it right in a lot of ways. And I actually went to the premiere of this at South by Southwest.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And Fede Alvarez was talking about this, and Bruce Campbell was up on stage, and he's like, this was a terrible movie, and it's good that this finally got done right. And I'm like, yeah, I agree with you, Bruce Campbell. Fede Alvarez talked about how for that final scene that they have where it's raining blood from the sky, they brought in 2 giant tanker trucks filled with fake blood, and they used it all in those scenes. So talk about your practical effects. I mean, it is insane, and they did this really well. So I have a lot of nostalgia for the first Evil Dead, but this one was actually done well. So
7,000 gallons of fake blood.
Oh,
yeah.
I just looked it up.
Yep.
And also, speaking of fake blood, if you're lucky enough or you stop in the Las Vegas area, they're actually they have a production down there. I think it's at the Hard Rock Cafe or Hotel. I have to double check. It's Evil Dead the Musical. And it sounds stupid as hell, but it's really funny. It's really well done. It's directed by Cirque Michaels, who knows his stuff. He's come to Comic-Con with the whole troupe and performed it a couple times. But what's so fun about this is they have a splatter zone. So the thing is, there's a bunch of chairs, and they're all covered with tarps and plastic. And if you go wearing a white shirt, sit in the splatter zone, and you will leave completely just drenched in blood, looking like you came out of a horror film. I mean, the last 20 minutes of the movie when Ash is killing the Deadites, it's just it's like being in a horror movie but it's so much fun. It's funny. The music's charming and wonderful. Both Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell have signed off on this as it's their official. They officially endorse it. It's a lot of fun. It's not expensive. Go see it. If you're a huge fan, they'll even let you get married on stage. They have a whole wedding plan available.
Oh my gosh.
But it's a ton of fun. Check it out, and you'll leave with some of that 70,000 gallons of blood all over you.
That's awesome. So I want to thank listener Aaron Burton, Geekhead Aaron of Geekhead Radio, for suggesting this week's theme of supernatural and demon movies. So I hope you enjoyed this. For those of you who want to chime in this week, go to our Facebook page. We'll put up another list of places where you can go in and make your suggestion, and then go in and vote. Go and like your suggestions and like other people's suggestions, and whoever gets the most likes, that's what we're going to do this week. Unless, as happened this week, we had a tie. So we did a tiebreaker, and we went with this. I know what I'm going to make a suggestion for this week, and that is Aliens. I think we need to talk about good alien movies. Maybe it's just because we just watched The Martian, and we heard that there's water on Mars, but there's a lot of great, scary, sci-fi, or even funny movies with aliens. You could go anywhere from Close Encounters to
Fire in the Sky.
Yeah, sure, Fire in the Sky to Paul.
I was thinking Paul, exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot here, so I think we should do Aliens, and so that's my pitch why you should vote for Aliens. So
I just came up with mine. Let's do zombies. Let's do Aliens versus zombies. The reason why is again, the zombies are getting old hat. They're everywhere. We've got 2 Walking Dead TV shows. They're really getting worn out. But there are some really fun zombie movies that maybe people didn't watch or weren't aware of. So everyone hop on our Facebook, facebook.com/boredashellpodcast, and we'll put the post up later today and let us know. Are we going to go aliens or are we going to go zombies?
Or make your own suggestion and get people to vote for that.
If you don't like either one of those, please let us know. We're more than happy to take suggestions because we're here to throw out some fun stuff for you guys to maybe see some movies you've never heard of before. So
I have a suggestion myself. Horror comedy.
Okay, so aliens versus zombies versus comedy.
Sometimes those are inclusive.
Exactly, yeah. So
Agreed.
Cabin in the Woods, it's actually all 3 of those.
Yeah.
So
Ghostbusters.
Yep.
That'll
take us to the end of this week. Thank you very much for stopping in and listening to us rant on about some movies. Next week, we've got the prequel, retelling, reboot of Peter Pan.
I've seen it.
You've seen
I've
it.
seen it.
Yeah.
Can't say anything, but I've seen it.
We can't talk about it, but I've heard enough. He Named Me Malala, which is a story, I think it's like a documentary.
It is.
About Malala and everything she went through and how her progression and being the amazing person she is. And then we have 99 Homes, the drama thriller with Andrew Garfield. So
Bridge of Spies. Is that
I think it's next week.
I think next week is Bridge of Spies.
But we're excited for that one
Screening
too.
it early.
So everyone, thank you very much for joining in. Brooks, thank you again for
Thanks for
showing
having me.
up. And we will talk to you next week. Hail Satan, and have a lovely afternoon.